Once upon a time, before the advent of strip mall multiplexes, going to see a movie was a memorable experience. Movie studios and exhibitors would build grand palaces to show their films. Well, thanks to changing times, most of those palaces are gone. However, one of the grandest in Tennessee is still flourishing in Knoxville. Rob Wiles takes us there to explore the official State Theater of Tennessee.
Even on a dreary Saturday morning when the rain seems to mute the dynamic energy of Knoxville's Gay Street, a jewel still shines. The Tennessee Theater, which has been a huge part of the heart of Knoxville since it opened in 1928 to accommodate the newest technology, movies, which were still silent for the most part. But that was changing quickly.
You ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you. You ain't heard nothing.
About a year before the Tennessee opened its doors, movies found their voice. And Becky Hancock, executive director of the historic Tennessee Theater Foundation, says they also found a gorgeous home in Knoxville.
The Tennessee Theater is known as a movie palace. It was built as a movie theater. It opened in 1928. And it was sort of in the heyday of the movie palace era, which started in the teens and went through the early 30s. And movies were the primary form of entertainment outside the home at that time. So the movie studios wanted to make these buildings just over the top beautiful and really wow the patrons as they walked in the front door. And I think that the Tennessee theater designers and builders accomplished that with this building.
For about the next 40 years, this was the place to see the latest movies. Then things began to change, and eventually the theater fell into disrepair until it was first renovated back in the 1980s.
From 1982 until 2003, the Tennessee Theater functioned as a movie palace trying to be a concert venue or an entertainment venue. But when the foundation was formed in '96, the board of directors had a choice to make. We want to preserve this theater. How do we want to do that? So they did a feasibility study with an architecture firm, and the firm said you could spend anywhere from $14 million to $20 million to really preserve this theater and to turn it into a performing arts venue.
And that's just what they did. You work here all the time. Do you still get overwhelmed when you look around sometimes?
Well, you
all
know,
the beautiful stuff?
I try not to become jaded about it because I walk in, I work in the most beautiful building in downtown, and it's helpful for me when I see people walk in for the first time and they look up and they smile and I say, yeah, there's that magic, and I need to remember never to take that for granted. One of the most beautiful things about this theater is its lobby. It's very different than other movie palace lobbies. It's long and narrow instead of wide. So when you walk in, your eyes, if you've never been here, your eyes immediately go up to these 5 beautiful chandeliers that we have. They're valued at about $250,000 each. And they, along with all of the other historic lighting fixtures in the building, were completely renovated, restored. So they were taken down, taken apart, put in boxes, and shipped to St. Louis, where the St. Louis Antique Lighting Company rebuilt them. They rewired them, replaced all the broken and missing parts, and then they brought them back and reinstalled them. Everywhere you look, the walls are decorated with plaster and wonderful Spanish Moorish design. There's lots of golds and browns and bronzes, and the theater was not meant to adhere to any one particular architectural idea. It was meant to just mash it all together and knock your socks off.
Well, that catches the eye, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. It's a very beautiful instrument.
Indeed it is. And the man who plays this beautiful instrument is one of the treasures of the Tennessee Theater himself, Bill Snyder, who spent 40 years as a professor of engineering at the University of Tennessee, all the while giving free rein to his creative side by playing this beautiful organ. before selected films and at other events at the Tennessee Theater.
I think the real pleasure comes from knowing how this instrument is appreciated. It was played on opening day in 1928, and it's been a popular feature of the Tennessee Theater over the years, and still is. Back in the 70s, when we were limping along showing movies in here, people would often call and ask if the organ was going to be played, and I think in some cases it may have affected their decision whether to come to the movie or not.
It's really the whole experience of movie or music performance or an organ recital that make a trip to the Tennessee Theater a delightful memory, as audience surveys confirm time and again.
We collected notes from the children to say, what was your favorite thing about today? And so many of them said things like, I loved the beautiful architecture, and I loved the lights, and I couldn't believe I just saw a movie in black and white. And one little boy wrote, he said, I loved it when I walked in, I felt famous. So we're still creating those memories for children in the East Tennessee area, and we will continue to do so.